All right, so for our third and final empire of the chapter, right, we've done the Ottoman Empire, Islamic Empire, Gunpowder Empire, largely tolerant of non-Muslims, Safavid Empire, Islamic Empire, Gunpowder Empire, not as tolerant as the Ottomans. Now we're going to do our third Islamic Gunpowder Empire, that of the Mughal dynasty. Not the Mongols, the Mughals, even though we'll see in a second that they did descend from the Mongols. But that word Mughal, we still use that word today to describe someone who is rich and powerful. The Mughals become famous for their fabulous, fabulous wealth. In fact, the throne of the Mughal Empire we call the Peacock Throne because it will be covered in so many precious jewels of different colors, right? So that we still, like I said, we still use that word Mughal to describe someone rich and powerful. Now, the Mughal dynasty, or the Mughal Empire, got its start in modern day Afghanistan. Oftentimes, the Mughal Empire is associated with India. Remember, it's a gunpowder empire formed by outside conquerors. So they come from outside India into India, right? From modern day Afghanistan in the area of modern day Kabul. And they crossed the Hindu Kush Mountains into India, right? And they are led by Babur. Now, Babur was literally made to conquer because from one side of his family, he's the descendant of the great Central Asian conqueror Timurlenk. And on the other side of his family, he is a descendant of Genghis Khan, a Mongol. So now you understand why Mongol and Mughal do sound so similar, because Babur is a descendant of the great Mongol Genghis Khan. So he was literally bred to conquer. So he takes his army, right, through the Hindu Kush Mountains into India, and their goal, right, is Delhi, right? Because Delhi is full of riches, but Delhi is controlled by the Sultan of Delhi, a guy named Ibrahim. So Babur tells his soldiers, like, we're going to take Delhi, and because of all of its fabulous riches, and we're going to be vastly outnumbered, but we got this, right? We can defeat Sultan Ibrahim. And it's just a sign of how much he's respected that his soldiers, like, okay, right? They're going to leave their homeland. They're going to go towards Delhi. They're going to fight Sultan Ibrahim's forces, even though they are going to be vastly outnumbered, right? And so Babur and Ibrahim's forces are going to fight at the Battle of Panipat, right? It's right there. Right, so there's Panipat, and just south of it is Delhi. So Delhi's the goal. That's where all the money is, where all the riches is. But to get to Delhi, you're going to have to win the Battle of Panipat. Now, Babur and his forces are vastly, vastly outnumbered. Babur has anywhere from 10 to 12,000 soldiers. Ibrahim has around 80,000 soldiers. Right, so they are vastly outnumbered. On top of that, Ibrahim has battle elephants, which is exactly what it sounds like. See an example on the screen. They would oftentimes be encased in armor, and there would be men on top in that little wooden box there with bows and arrows. And these battle elephants were trained to kill. That's what they did. If you look closely where I circled, you'll see a battle elephant, and he's picked up a man. Some battle elephants were trained to rip men in half. They would step on 1 foot of the enemy soldier, right? And then their trunk would grab the waist and then pull and rip the guy in half. So Babur and his crew are outnumbered, right? Vastly outnumbered, and their enemy Ibrahim has battle elephants. But what Ibrahim doesn't have is Babur. Also, what he doesn't have is artillery. Remember, gunpowder empire, right? So Babur fights smart. So on one side of his army is the walled city of Panipat. On the other side, he has his forces dig this huge ditch, right? Because they're waiting on Ibrahim. Babur knows Ibrahim is impulsive. So Babur knows if they simply wait, Ibrahim's going to come and meet them. So while they're waiting, they dig this really deep ditch, right? And then position their army, Babur's army, in between the two. So then, eventually, Ibrahim does show up with his 80 to 100,000 soldiers. But notice on one side is Panipat, on the other side is that really big defensive ditch. So that's going to act as a funnel. So Ibrahim can't use all of his soldiers at the same time. Also, Babur has created, and his army have created this crude wall made of wooden carts latched together. That way, his soldiers can hide behind them. And don't forget, Gunpowder Empire. They have firearms. Ibrahim does not. And guess what the battle elephants of Ibrahim have never heard before? Artillery. So when the cannons and guns begin to go off, the battle elephants actually stampede, right? And retreat, run away through Ibrahim's army, causing sheer chaos. Ibrahim's army is annihilated by Babur's forces, and Ibrahim actually dies in the battle, and Babur captures Delhi and begins the Mughal dynasty. Now, he won't live long after that, and he'll die of natural causes, and his son will not do a particular great job of managing the empire. And his son will actually die pretty young, and the throne will go to a very young grandson of Babur named Akbar. And Akbar, as a young man, loses a lot of territory, but he's going to gain it all back and more. Akbar goes down as one of the best, if not the best, ruler India ever had, if not one of the best, period, ever, anywhere. He's highly, highly respected in historical circles for what he did. So he regains all the territory, then he organizes it. He divides it into provinces, and then each province into districts. So on top, you've got Akbar, right? He is on top. And then beneath him, you have the governors of the provinces. And then beneath them, right, you have the officials that rule the districts. So the district officials report to the province governors, and then those governors report to Akbar. So he's taking this huge empire and he's divided it into small bite-sized chunks, which is really smart. And remember, they're outside invaders. They're outside Islamic invaders. There's way more native Hindus inside the empire than his fellow Mughals. So what he does is he creates a blended government. The highest positions went to his fellow Mughals, right? But he filled his government up with native Hindus. That pleases the native Hindus. It lets them know that he respects them. Even though he conquered them, he respects them. He even married a Hindu wife, right? Kind of to prove, right? Not only do I respect you, I've made you part of my family. There was another part of India that he fought very hard to conquer, an area called Punjab. And the people of Punjab resisted fiercely, and eventually he won. And out of respect for them, he married one of their princesses and made the soldiers of Punjab part of his army because they were so good at what he did, and they become intensely loyal to Akbar. Very smart man. And then he created a very efficient tax policy using zamindars. Zamindars are tax collectors, and they got to keep part of the taxes that they collected, so that would motivate them to do their job, right? Which is a great system as long as the government is paying attention to them. Right? And then he tweaked his tax policy. This is pretty neat. Akbar said that if an area of his kingdom has a really bad harvest, right, like a natural disaster happens and there's a really bad harvest, like a drought or a flood, that area of his empire would either pay less taxes that year or no taxes at all. Think about how much respect this got him from the native Hindus that he has conquered. Yes, he's an outsider. He's a Mughal. He's Muslim. He's not one of them. But he's filled the government up with Hindus. He has a very, 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 very peaceful and good tax policy. It's a very thoughtful tax policy. He even orders shade trees to be planted along the side of the road so people traveling throughout his empire will always have a place to rest. He's that kind of ruler. So the people really, really, really like Akbar. Unfortunately, his descendants, they're going to mess it all up. Either through spending too much money on things they shouldn't, or being less tolerant than Akbar. Because he was very tolerant. Remember, he's outside invader, right? And even though he was Muslim, most of the people he conquered were Hindus, And he was very religious in his later years. He was very curious about other religions. Technically, he was Muslim, right? But he reached out to many religions. So he ended all religious-based taxes. Remember, in the Ottoman Empire, you had to pay tax if you weren't a Muslim. That's common in most Islamic empires back then. He ended that. He said, if you're Hindu, you don't have to pay an extra tax. No more, right? No religious-based taxes. He allowed for the creation of new Hindu temples and would even visit them at times. He even tried to create a new religion, which I know sounds kind of weird, but he was trying to make a blend of Hinduism and Islam, a blend that would make everyone happy. No, it didn't work. No one really took to it, but he's genuinely curious. There's Akbar in the middle there in yellow with like the red turban. And in this picture, he has Hindu scholars talking to him. And he's got Islamic scholars. And the guys in the circle there are European missionaries. Right? He even learned about Christianity. He was very interested and very tolerant. He allowed Christian missionaries into his empire, where some other Islamic empires did not do that. So he was very, very, very tolerant.